and negotiating with myself. Because if I keep thinking down here, I'm going to keep getting what I want. See, all of us, for us to achieve more, we got to become more. So I can't think of what I've always been thinking about. And that's what most people, they woke up today, they got on their phone, they thought the same thoughts that they thought yesterday, same feelings, same actions. Why am I getting the same results? Because you're the same person you were yesterday. And until we start changing our thinking, nothing's going to change. But Jeff is going to say, you know what? I'm done. Like he has this moment with himself. He's like, you know what? I'm going to prove to myself that I can do this. There's in challenging, ultra competitive with ourselves. And Jeff's going to say, you know what, Arash? I have made a committed decision. But I'm going to tell Jeff, I'm going to say, here's how you make the committed decision and never lose it. You are going to bulletproof your focus. We've got to be so locked in on that decision, we don't accept anything that's not in harmony with that decision. That's called focus. Focus is the single number one best work habit you can ever create. So you are not going to create amazing results being distracted. Focus is your weapon. And Jeff is going to say, you know what? I've made the decision. Now I'm backing it with focus. I'm going to hold myself accountable every day. These are the few things I'm going to do every day that are going to lock in my focus. And then I'm going to have Jeff, I'm going to be like, Jeff, I need you to do it for 60 days. And then we'll get to 60. I said, it's harder now, Jeff, isn't it, to not do it? And he's going to say yes. If I can get him to 60 days, it's over. It is over. But to get to 60 days, he's going to have to go through the messy middle. And that's why people revert back. They settle because they never get to those 60 days. And when you do it, like William James said, you have to think and act. That's what people are not doing. Our action from the goal. So how do we take that action from the goal when we don't even know what the action's supposed to be? Because the universe, once you decide, the universe is going to give you the people, the activities of what to do. And all of a sudden, you're going to start attracting prospects like out of the blue. Out of the blue, they're going to start chasing you down. Okay? Now, this is critical because now you're going to think thoughts that are aligned with the goal. That's our job. Now, you're like, what does this have to do with selling? It has everything to do with selling. Because if my thinking is not right, I can't sell anyone. I cannot sell anyone. So if I'm thinking in scarcity, I'm going to attract a lot of people who don't have money. So right now, if you're attracting people who don't have money for your services, it's your thinking. You're like, no, it's that, no, it's not. Remember, we're the only problem, the only solution we have. I remember in my career, I'd go weeks of attracting people that didn't have money. I'm like, God, my thinking must have sucked. It was always me. It was never them. And that's why salespeople say, I don't have good leads. You tell me what a good lead is. You tell me what a good lead is. And I remember when I first started, I had no experience. I was telling you this. Bob had a team of people who hated me because I came and I outsold 10 people. And they're talking so much crap behind my back. And he goes, kid, because Bob used to call me kid. He goes, kid, don't even worry. I said, I'm not worried about them. I said, I don't understand how you hired them in the first place. That's what I told them. I said, they didn't have the love for it. Like, how did you hire them? And they all quit. I was the only person. And then I built the team. And I built my own team, and I had great people on my team, But I was so determined because I locked in my focus. Want and focus is critical to achieving your goals. So then just sit there and ask yourself, how strong is my want? I don't force my want. I allow it. I allow it to drive me. That's why I'm always dissatisfied. I always think we could do better, We just had our best YouTube video by far. Like so far, it's 16,000 views. I had been working on this, I don't know, for 3 years. Every week we record. We did more in 5 days than we did in the last 6 months. How does that happen? Because you don't give in. You just do the work. You do the work. You notice I'm not talking about, God, I have to have. If I said, how am I going to get to 16,000? It wasn't even. I think by tomorrow it's going to be 25,000. That's what I believe. But it doesn't matter. My job is to do the work. Your job is to do the work. That work is getting better. That's the only work we have to do. And if we do that, you're going to understand there are those who always, like if someone you deem successful, I guarantee you know they're focused. I guarantee you know they're focused. So if you're sitting there and saying, which identity behavior would really improve my life? I'm telling you it's focus. Focus will change the game. It will change the game. But focus creates consistency, and your goals are just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time that you're going to see them. But I don't want you to settle. You've got to make a rule in this room: no more settling. No more. Every time you let the results control you, you're not thinking. Because the results are not created by who you are today. They've been created by who you were in the past. And you've got to let go of the past. Too many people are living in the past. So we want to always hold a higher image, lower concern. Most people are in worry, doubt, and fear, so they're holding a higher worry or a higher concern and a low image. Okay? They're not thinking. Now, your results are never going to outgrow your internal program. Outside world will never outgrow what's going on in here. It will never do it. And if you do it, I promise you, like Megan, like let's say Megan has the best month she's ever had. But Megan is like, if she didn't change her identity, the next month it's going to go down. She'll find ways to sabotage herself. That's why we have to prioritize our programming of what we do every day. What we do every day. Because wealth is a mental system before you ever see it financially. It is a mental system. Who do I have to become? I watch people digging up their seeds, asking the question, how? Or asking, where is it? Where is it? That's the wrong question. We've got to ask this question: who do I have to become today? Just today. Who do I have? Now, you don't need more effort. Like, all in is not about more effort. A lot of people are like, that seems exhausting. All in is about less effort. It's energy. Like, if I look at my career, the thing that I look for in other people is their energy. You have somebody with enthusiasm, they're going to crush it. You have other people who are in their head, and you've probably heard this term, when you're in your head, you're dead. Your heart is your greatest amplifier, not your head. So energy is super important. And energy is consistent with the attitude of how you see yourself. So your identity is the operating system of your income. So look at your income. That will tell me my identity. Like if I look at our company revenue, that tells us where our identity is. If I look what I'm paying myself, that tells me if I want to pay myself more, I better get better. I better get better. So let's look at the identity of an elite sales professional. Now, I want you, when you're taking these notes now, this is super important what I'm about to go over. Whatever you're not, I want them in your note. This is what I'm going to start installing, okay? Don't just listen to me. We got to execute. Now, sales isn't a skill problem. It's an identity problem. We have to understand that first. It's not a sales. You've all sold in your life. Would you agree? So if you could sell one person, you can sell 1,100 people. You could sell 20,000 people. Now, I've done in my career I've been a part of over $1 billion in sales. So I have a lot of experience with this. So I can tell you that I know this. And I know it because I can't tell you something I haven't experienced. Now, every sale happens twice. First in the identity of the sales professional, then in the conversation. You've already either blocked your sale or you've sold them before you even start. And if you've sold them in your mind, you're going to sell them in the conversation. Now, they may not buy, maybe they don't have the money, but you're going to attract the people who do. We're always creating invisible results. Our job is to put all our attention on how we can serve. And we've got to be prepared. That's all identity. Now, people always buy certainty, not pitch. Always buy certainty. That's why when I teach people how to sell, I don't script for people. A lot of people teach selling and scripting. Scripting is like you're a robot. I don't do that because First of all, you're only going to sell with connection heart to heart. Now, I will show them a script, but I say you don't memorize a script, you become this script. It's very different than reading a script. You've got to become it, and I teach them how to chunk. Like if I ever taught you a presentation, I would teach you how to chunk it when you make it into your personality. When you make it into your personality. Like I was working with Cheryl, she has a very good presentation. Very good presentation. I was really happy with it. I just made a few changes, not a lot. But her presentation was good. Okay? So if she can build that mental identity, her presentation's not the problem, right? So we're like, okay, this is where I'm going to get better. Now, average sellers seek approval. They need to be liked. When you're selling, your job is not to be liked. Your job is to help the client get to the outcome that they want. Elite sellers are all about leadership. Like, I hope you guys like me, but I don't really care. My job is to help transform you. That's the only job I have. And so a great seller will challenge the person, is that really what you want? Now, I want you to hear your language, because if you follow their language, they're telling you all you have to talk to them about. But most people are not listening. They're not listening, and the prospect's telling you what their hangup is. But if I'm talking to Raphael, he gives me his hangup, and I don't attack it right away, I lost the opportunity. And that's what salespeople do. God, I wonder what they're thinking of me. I wonder what they're thinking of me. They're not thinking of you. They're thinking about them. So the income you desire already exists. It's out there. Your selling identity is going to determine if you're going to attract it, if you're going to allow it to come into your life. So then we look at, when I tell you, if I said, do you have a great identity towards sale? What comes up in your mind right away? Whatever that first instinct was will tell you right away what your attitude towards it is. And so if you don't have a great attitude, we've got to build it. And a lot of people don't have a great attitude towards sales because they don't understand it. They think you're taking from somebody. Selling is what you're doing for somebody, not what you're taking from them. And you've got to understand this. And until you understand it, these people are not going to transform. And it's the same thing for all the live streamers. If you guys are making decisions right now based on, can someone afford it? You already didn't serve at the highest level. Okay? Like, I don't negotiate my prices because I know the value's there. So I don't negotiate. And if someone's trying to come to me and being like, oh, that's too expensive, they're not my client. They don't understand that I'm going to 10x if they do what I tell them to do. They don't understand it. Why? Because they have a program. And that program is keeping them from where they want to be. Now, you don't close people. The close, and I have an awesome lesson on closing, but close is the easiest thing. Are you up for doing it? You lead people to decision. That's what selling is. You invite them. You put your offer out. Are you up for doing it? That's the close. The close is just a great presentation. Yet I have people come to me, can you help me be a better closer? You know, the close is the problem. The identity is the problem. The identity is the problem. Now, your income reflects your sales identity. So most people don't even know their sales numbers. You know, you've got to know those inside and out, because if you don't know them, what are you measuring against? What are you measuring against? We have to know those inside and out. Now, every elite income level is funded by emotional authority in conversations. What does that mean, emotional authority? It means like, you don't say it in words, but you're like, I know what I'm doing. Like, I'm going to help you. You've got to do what I tell you to do. Like, you've got to be strong enough to say, don't work with me if you're not going to follow direction. You know, that's the only thing, the reason people don't get results is because they don't follow direction. But you've got to be strong enough to say that to somebody, okay? You've got to say that because they're coming in with paradigms. So you got to understand how the mind works. Now, you have to detach from the outcome. It doesn't matter if you get the sale or not. Now, what's registering in your mind? What do you mean it doesn't matter? It really doesn't matter. Because if you come in with the right intent, the right attitude, the right presentation, the sales are going to come pouring in. They'll come pouring in. But when you're like, God, I'm selling Andreas, I hope he does this. I hope he does this. All I'm doing is repelling him. That's all I'm doing is repelling him. I don't want to repel him. I want to connect with him. I want to show him by doing this. By doing this. You know, he just had a baby. 3 months old? 2 months old. And I told him to get his butt in this room. I told him that. Well, you know what I did with him? He didn't do it. I texted him. I said, you didn't follow through on your word, right? And he's like, I know, but when he leaves here, he's going to say, this is the best thing I decided to do. I already knew that before. So I'm strong enough with my emotional authority because I'll never tell someone to do something that's not wise for them. You know, but you've got to have that emotional authority. Like Stacy, we've changed your presentation from Wealth Accelerator, correct? Now, how has the process been since we changed it?
It's been a lot better. First of all, because I feel better when I'm doing it because I wasn't selling from the real story of my business. And so it was inauthentic. So I felt weird about it. And that changed so much. I was much more relaxed.
Yeah, because now you came from authenticity. You came from identity. So you were working with the wrong story. And we changed the story to get congruent with you. Like if we're not in love with what we're doing, we're not going to do well. Her story, both of us were not in love with it, right? So we changed the story of really what she's passionate about. Now she's selling more. So you've got to be willing to confront their indecision. See, people have decision problems. You got to be aware of that. So you've got to be ahead of that decision problem. They've just told you what they wanted, and then they get to the point of either going in with you or not. And that indecision, don't give in to the indecision, educate. Say, if you keep making decisions like this, nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to change. Your health is not going to get better with the people you work with, Pari, until you decide. You know, do you still want to feel this? What is the cost of you doing what you've always done? That's how you overcome indecision with value. It's not about, when I say confront them, you do it with value, you do it with love, not you do it with force. Force, their ego is going to be triggered. And if their ego is triggered, you're not selling them. You are not selling them. And so income always follows identity. Always. And that's why, like our company, like people come to us a lot to increase their income, but all I work with them on is identity. I mean, what people think income is, it's not what income is. You know, Jeff and I never talked about, God, we got to grind towards his income. All we worked on was his identity. That's how I changed my life. So your income goals, we got to match that programming, but your identity of who you decide to become, how your habits get changed, how you think, what type of actions you take, how you upgrade your skill set is going to determine your income. It's not income itself. Income is an effect. It's not the cause. So you're never going to outperform your self-image, ever, nor am I. So the only thing we have to go all in on is getting better every day. Getting better. Getting better every day. Like Kevin, for him to create a massive jump in his income, he's got to have a massive jump in his identity. You know, it doesn't matter how good Kevin is. I bet you Kevin is great at what he does. I bet you're great at what you do. But it doesn't matter how great you are if your identity doesn't match. It won't work. It will not work. But you've got to decide before they say yes. You've got to know, like, this is what we're doing. Like, this is where I'm going to take you. This is how I'm going to show you how to get to where you want to go. Now, it's going to be your decision. It is going to be your decision. You could decide, I've got to chase. That's a choice. You could decide, I'm not going to have focus. That's a choice. Or you could decide, like Patty, you could decide like you're going to blow up your business. The only reason you haven't blown up your business yet, you haven't decided. And you keep going to the past. The past is dead. So the moment, maybe this is the moment that I'm talking right to your heart, that you're like, enough. I'm going to show myself, because I had one of those moments. So don't let the past ever decide your decisions, ever. Now, you got to be neutral when you're working with people. You got to be emotionally neutral. This is where our power is. And when you're emotionally neutral, you're not going to put that repellent force of neediness. Now, most people are losing sales because they're needy. I mean, have you guys ever dated someone in your life that was needy? You're like, oh my God, I got to get away from this. Like that's how they feel if you're needy. They're like, can I end this conversation? So you can't come with neediness. You come with being neutral. Like it's either going to be this or something better. It's either going to be this or something better. But do you know most people never decide they're going to sell? They never decide when they wake up they're going to sell. I used to wake up and I'd be like, I'm going to make 2 more sales today. I don't care where they come from. I don't care how they come. I was open-minded. And some days I'd have 4. Some days I had my best day. I think I had 18 in one day. I had other days I had 1, but I kept waking up with that. Kept waking up. It doesn't matter where they come from. Like, do you guys care where they come from? It doesn't matter. Our job is to put our mind only on what we want. And when our brain really locks in, it goes and focuses on how to bring it. If we're not committed and it doesn't mean that much, your brain prioritizes what's important to you. And your brain only knows what's important to you by what you focus on. That's how it knows. So Jeff could be focusing on lack. His brain thinks, I got to bring him more lack. That's what he keeps telling me, right? So we got to understand why our mindset determines our identity, okay? But you guys have got to start seeing yourselves as the best in the world at what you do. The best in the world at what you do. Like Alan and Alex, I look at you guys. You guys came to my house. I'm going to make you guys the best sales professionals people are going to be like, you're so young, how did you get so good? Because just in a month, you guys have gotten a lot better. Just in a month. And how do I know they've gotten a lot better? The questions they ask me. These guys, you got to go talk to them. They're hungry. And they are doing the work. Now, they get distracted because they have paradigms, right? So it's not perfect. But I will tell you in 1 month how much these 2 guys have changed. How old are you guys? 23 and 22. By 30, they're going to rule the world. They are, because they're hungry. And they're doing it the right way. Now, it's always your standards over outcomes. Like, do you want someone to have a bad impression of you? So that might be the only time they ever speak to you. So you've got to make them the most important person. Because to them, they are. To them, they're the most important person. Somebody said to me yesterday, such an amateur. They said to me yesterday, they said, I was on back-to-back calls. And right away, I said, I'm never responding to that person again. Because you never tell a client that, ever. Because you know what you're communicating? You're not important. Amateur hour. Nobody cares. Nobody cares how busy you are. Your job is to serve. And you want to serve at the highest level. But you've got to rehearse your identity. You've got to rehearse. See, I was telling my coaches this. We had a meeting yesterday, was Monday? Yesterday. And I said, we've got to remember our future. See, a lot of people are like, what do you mean by that? We haven't created. Yes, you have. You create it in your mind. It first happens in your mind before you see it in your life. So I have 5 different paragraphs that I write to remind myself of the future every day. I'll write, this is the most amazing day. I have a client testimonial that I've never even received, but I've written it out. I write, oh my God, my team had the best records of their life. I have 5 different stories to remind myself of the future that I'm going from. So you start at the future and you write it like it's already here. Write 5 stories. You're not going to get away from being your future self if you start doing this. Instead, most people are rehearsing, what if this doesn't happen? What if this doesn't happen? They're rehearsing, what if it doesn't work? What if it doesn't work? Well, you just invited it into your life. You invited it into your life. Why? Because humans over-dramatize their losses and minimize their wins. But they've already lost before the loss ever happened. They've already put it in their mind. Like, gosh, I've never met you, Julio, right? Never met you. But you're probably like, what is Raphael getting me involved in? What is he getting me involved in? Like, I guarantee you had those ideas, right? You probably did. And if you study, you're probably like, oh, I've studied this before. What's going to be different? So you already made a story, and I've never talked to you yet, right? We just said hello. But I already know. I already know the stories people play in their minds, But then you have someone like Kim. Kim's like probably come in here and she's like, oh, I'm so fired up for this. I can't wait to see it, right? Two different stories. Neither were wrong, so neither were bad, right? But I want you guys to train your identity. I only rehearse best case scenario for me. Because you know what a competitive advantage that is for you? Everybody else is rehearsing what's wrong. What if you started rehearsing what's right? And you started making that a habit? Do you see how much that's going to improve not just your sales, your life? And this is a big one. We've got to detach from approval. We've got to stop worrying about what people think. The most important person, if you're going to have an elite sales identity, is what do I think of myself? What do I think of myself? That is the most important person that we need to wonder how they think of us. Now,